I'm Carly Evans. Welcome to the University of Wollongong Alumni Anthology webinar series, where we explore the passion projects, life journeys and personal enrichment of UOW community. Today, I'll be talking to Dr Marian Wong. Before we commence, I'd like to acknowledge that country for Aboriginal peoples is an interconnected set of ancient and sophisticated relationships. The University of Wollongong spreads across many interrelated Aboriginal countries that are bound by this sacred landscape, from Sydney to the Southern Highlands to the South Coast, from freshwater to bitter water to salt, from city to urban to rural. The University of Wollongong acknowledges the custodianship of the Aboriginal peoples of this place and space that has kept alive the relationships between all living things. The university acknowledges the real and devastating impact of colonisation on Aboriginal countries and peoples, and further commit ourselves to truth-telling, healing and education. So today's guest, Dr Marian Wong, is a marine biologist and senior lecturer in the Centre for Sustainable Ecosystem Solutions at UOW. Dr Wong's research lab uses marine and freshwater fish to understand the evolution of conflict, cooperation, group living and mating systems. Marian is a superstar of STEM, sharing her knowledge and expertise to new audiences. Today, Marian will chat to us about her research, her aspirations and the power of overcoming imposter syndrome. Welcome, Marian. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you for having me, Carly.
So as we launch into Science Week 2021, we wanted to chat to you, Marian, to see if you could share insights into your life as a woman working in STEM. What are you passionate about in your work?
So yeah, as you said, I'm a behavioural ecologist and I study the behaviour of fish in particular, especially their social behaviours. And I'm really fascinated in these kinds of behaviours, why they've evolved and how environmental stresses might also impact those behaviours. And what I love most about the work is really actually the fieldwork aspect of being able to be in the water, in the fish's natural habitat, not just looking at their natural history, but also understanding in great detail why they're behaving the way they're doing. And it's that why question that really fascinates me. And as marine biologists, and I'm in particular a behavioural ecologist, we are guided by conceptual frameworks to try and understand behaviour. So we don't just go out there and count what they're doing and write it down, but we're actually trying to understand the behaviour in the context of evolutionary theory. And this means that later on we could actually apply what we've learned in fish potentially to a lot of other social animals as well. So we really need to have...
That includes humans?
Yes, it definitely includes humans. Humans are very, very complex though. But what I try to do is to look at the very fundamental underpinnings of behaviours that could be expressed in both fish and humans, and gain a greater understanding of why we all do what we do in that way. So that's what I love doing, and I love training my students to do the same.
Brilliant. So how would you describe your path then to your current role and the journey of becoming an academic and a researcher? What was that like for you?
Well, I had a rather single-minded pathway to academia. From a young age, I've been very focused on my love of research, and then I combined that with a love of fish and marine biology. And actually, academia was really enjoyable for me as a PhD student and later as postdocs. It's just a work of passion. I mean, it's hard to stick to academia if you don't really love it. And there were, of course, difficult moments, but I was lucky enough to grow up in academic labs that were really supportive of myself, but also just women in general, and they were fairly gender balanced. So I never felt any kind of discrimination. And I'm definitely very lucky because of that, because I know that's not necessarily the experience of everybody who's in academia these days. And besides being really lucky to be raised in these kinds of labs, these days I work with people that I just like from a personal perspective as well. So I tend to choose collaborators who are my friends. And if you think about it, I mean, I may potentially have to share a really cramped research station with these people for weeks on end. So, you know, I have to like them and we have to get along as well.
It seems like a very wise career move. Work with.
I think it's just the necessity.
Absolutely. So in 2020, you were chosen as one of the STA Superstars of STEM. I wanted to know how it feels to be given a title like Superstar of STEM. Does it ring true for you, or have you had to adjust your self-image to feel comfortable in embracing that title?
That's a really good question, Carly. And I generally like to think that my imposter syndrome is under control. But in all honesty, I haven't fully embraced the superstar element yet. I'm just trying to be a good scientist and a helpful colleague and a supervisor who is committed to my students. But I'm loving the Superstars program because what it's doing is giving me tools to be a better leader, and also the confidence to put myself out there more and engage in activities that I wouldn't normally do. For example, today coming on this webinar, I did have to get over that niggling thought of, oh, someone else may be better at doing this than me, but I'm going to say yes anyway. So it really depends on your definition of success, I think, with imposter syndrome. If you define success as simply showing up and saying, yes, I'm going to do this for the greater good, then I think you can call yourself a superstar. So it really depends on that definition. And also, you never know where turning up and showing up can lead you and what other opportunities can arise from it.
So were you, when you applied for the Superstars of STEM, or were you nominated?
So I applied, and we had to go through several rounds of interview and also expressing our research in a way that a broader audience can understand. So it was quite a rigorous application process, and I'm really grateful for the school's support for me doing this, because it does take quite a bit of time and commitment as well.
And it sounds like it's something that pushed you outside of your comfort zone in some ways.
Yeah, it definitely has. And it's more just that shift in mentality that it catalyzes. And from that, then you go on and you find your own path.
So you've mentioned before the importance of mentors and networks, and just then we're talking about the support that you had within your school. What value do you think they hold, and how would you recommend that people should harness them?
So mentors are invaluable, I think. And for me personally, the ones that I've had have either been assigned to me. So for example, my supervisors for my PhD or my postdocs, or they're ones that have developed naturally, for example, between colleagues that I naturally just got along well. And then it sort of develops. And I think though that the best mentoring relationships and the ones that last the longest time are those where it's more of a give and take relationship. So not only do you benefit from their knowledge and expertise and experience, but you also offer them something too. So whether that be just, energy and your enthusiasm, or an alternative perspective. And it's also really important to be able to have a laugh, I think, with your mentors and just to joke around, and also to know how to bribe them effectively. And in my experience, I've used coffee, I've used banana cake, and that's worked really well. And
see how that would work on multiple levels.
Yeah, no, it definitely does. And having several mentors is good as well if you can, because each one specializes in a different area. And so you can just gain more and learn more from many people.
Brilliant. So given that we've briefly touched on the research that you're currently doing, what are the future directions that you hope to take that research in? There are some incredible opportunities and challenges that are facing the world right now. Are you hoping to drive a particular change or agenda forward?
Yes, I'm really passionate about advocating for coral reef conservation, because that's where a lot of my research is done, and better management of these habitats. So, for example, the Great Barrier Reef is an iconic ecosystem in Australia, but it's under grave threat from back-to-back bleaching events and cyclones. And some of my students have been documenting the decline in a lot of coral-associated fish as a result. And so Australia really needs to start developing policies in line with the rest of the world to get net zero emissions essentially by 2050. And if we can really pledge that and take the necessary action, so focusing on renewables instead of gas and coal, then I think we can go a long way to preserving this reef. And I'm really passionate about engaging more with creative minds and finding sort of science meets art collaborative adventures that can promote reef conservation to the public. And my lab, the Fish Lab, have done some work with local artists who do amazing things related to the marine life that we have locally. And I'd really love to do more of that, because it gets myself and my students outside of academia as well, but brings that scientific knowledge that we have out into that public sphere. And we've been talking to public about, you know, the importance of conserving our oceans and protecting it from all the various threats. And I think that's actually a very rewarding experience.
So would you encourage people to reach out to you if they were interested in hearing more or collaborating? Is that something that you're actively seeking?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, we're always looking for creative minds when we're out we're in lockdown now, but when we were out trying to find people to collaborate with, we were going to the local markets, finding those people who are creating things that are related to the reef or related to the ocean. And generally we got really positive feedback, and these artists were really keen to get involved. And so, yes, if you are interested, you can find me on the university webpage and just send me an email.
So talking about being in lockdown, has that had a massive impact for you and your students with the research that you're undertaking? How has that stopped your fieldwork, or are you still able to go ahead?
Well, with respect to fieldwork, no, we haven't been able to go ahead. Just with the borders snapping shut at any minute, it's just been really difficult for us. But thankfully, we do have a lot of data that we've collected that my students are now analysing. So that's definitely been really fortunate. But otherwise, I think in lockdown, what we've been trying to do is having regular catch-ups on Zoom. I think the whole mental health component is really actually affecting people, particularly now in this lockdown. Less so last year, I think, but definitely more so with cumulative lockdowns. So it's getting much more important that we as a lab connect on a regular basis, and just connecting with my students on every week, I think, is hopefully helping all of us.
Definitely. So I had a few additional questions that I just wanted to squeeze in quickly. You come across as someone who has an incredible thirst for learning. What do you think this says about who you are and how you operate?
Yeah, I do feel like there's often not enough hours in the day. And my learning, it tends to extend beyond academia as well. So I have a lot of outside interests and hobbies. And I'm actually fairly competitive in these things. Like when I do something that I'm interested in, I want to be as best as I can be. And if I'm not, then I'm, quite frustrated. So sometimes it can wear my head out and I have to just stop and slow down. So that's how I operate. So I'm never really bored. Obviously in a lockdown, it would be nice just to have that option to go and, do everything that we can do. And particularly traveling, I found not being able to travel quite difficult, because for me, just going to a new place, I can learn so much about that place, that environment. And in fact, throughout my career, I've had to undergo a series of international relocations. And each one of them, while challenging, has been really exciting, because I've learned how to live in a completely different part of the world, and having to set things up, your life, within work, but also outside of work, just sort of setting everything up from scratch each time has had its moments, but overall has been so much fun. So I'm really, looking forward to the day when we can all step on those planes again and and get away. But at the same time, ensuring that we have that space to slow down when we need to.
Absolutely. So given that this was all in the aim of talking during Science Week, is there anything that you would say to people who were interested in science or haven't perhaps dabbled in it? What would your words of encouragement be for people who are stepping into getting more familiar with science during Science Week?
I'd say go for it. I mean, science is all about the discovery of the truths, and knowledge is such an important thing to have. And as scientists, we're always trying to learn more, and we're always raising more questions. We're always getting more answers, and then more questions arise. But you only need to look at this COVID situation and how these scientists have worked so hard as a result of years and years of training to develop these vaccines that essentially prevent people from dying needlessly. And it's that rigorous training that getting into science careers and STEM careers gives you that enables you to then go on and do things like these incredible scientists are today. So I would say if you're passionate and if you're willing to put in the hard work, then science could definitely be the career for you.
Beautiful. And I guess we need to say goodbye because we're getting very close to time. So I just wanted to say a very big thank you. I'm so grateful for your generosity in sharing your time and insights with us. And I'd like to thank our audience for joining us too. And please find us at UAW Alumni on Facebook, LinkedIn and Instagram, and we can keep the conversation going. We'd love to hear from you.